Welcome to Blueprint Boost for Contractors, the podcast that's your go-to source for unlocking the secrets to successful marketing, gaining valuable insights, and growing your contracting business with less stress. Your host is David Brooks, and he's thrilled to be your guide on this journey. As a seasoned expert in the contracting industry, David understands the challenges you face. That's why each episode is crafted to provide you with actionable strategies and proven blueprints to boost your business to new heights.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, David Brooks, powered by Contractor Rhino, your go-to source for all your digital marketing and accounting needs. We have a special guest with us for this episode, an actual repeat guest, and I'll allow him to reintroduce himself.
Hey, David, thanks for the opportunity. Always a pleasure to come back on and chat with you again. I'm one of the co-founders of Bitumio software. We focus on simplifying business operations for asphalt and concrete contractors through estimating, scheduling, work orders, job management, job costs, all of that runs through our platform. So good to talk to you again.
Yeah, no, great to have you back. So for this particular conversation, we're going to be talking about using data to make better decisions. We're going to talk about breaking down goals, and really this kind of goes hand in hand with when I'm having conversations with business owners. It's about actually knowing the data points, right? Knowing where all the information is, whether that is manually or whether that's using a software, but do you have that information together so you can make better decisions inside of the business to set yourself up for success?
Yeah, and I think just to kind of double click on that a little bit, I think a lot of people, whenever you say data, they tend to clam up like, oh boy, this is way too technical for me. I don't know what data is, right? In this conversation, we're not going deep. We want to help you understand how to set goals, whether we're primarily focused on a revenue goal. What is your yearly revenue goal for your company, and how can you break that up into bite-sized chunks that you can then achieve through marketing with David's team, which we'll talk about more in depth on the next series, in the next podcast of this series. But we're not talking about advanced data here. What did you sell last year, right? What were your revenue last year? How many proposals did you send out, and how many of those did you actually win? Like with those three data points, and then you plug in what your revenue goal is, like you can expand on that significantly to break down a monthly, daily, weekly checklist to really hit whatever that revenue goal being, right? Mm-hmm. So I just want to like clarify, that's not like turn people off right away because we said the forsaken word, right? The word that should not be spoken of, but we're talking very minor data details that hopefully can help paint a picture of how you can expand your business and hit the revenue goals that you want.
No, that's an excellent explanation. Yeah, we don't want to scare you away, data. We're not going to be talking over your head. We're just keeping it really simple.
Simple's the best.
Yes. So as we're keeping it simple, let's go into, our first segue into, gathering up goals and then we can go into tracking information.
Yeah, I think so. Setting your goals, the reason why we want to talk about this and the way that I've used this to run my own asphalt business, I've had a vacation rental business, a commercial laundry business, right? And the way that we track all of this is really one of the major things that we do is how do we break this down into a daily, weekly, monthly task list ultimately, right? Knowing that if I have a goal of hitting $4 million in revenue next year for a smaller asphalt business, then what does that mean in terms of per month or the number of proposals that I need to get out? I had a customer on our software they just emailed me the other day, actually. Last week, I was doing a check-in with them, and they said, yeah, everything's going well. I assumed last year, before we had your software, that if I hit $1 million in estimated revenue, right? So $1 million in estimate sent, I would be golden for the year. But we're actually at 2.5 million in estimates sent, and we're growing like crazy. And so, like, just having that base number of how much have you actually sent out, and then how much of that you've won, what your win rate is crucial to helping understand, okay, now to take this to the next step, I've actually got to send out this much per year, per month, per day. And so I think breaking it down that way, the other thing that we're going to touch on briefly is I have a lot of customers that ask me, how do you define bonuses, whether it be for estimators or crew, right? And sometimes it's very arbitrary. I think they get this much this year, right? But that could vary widely, whether or not they made you mad the day before you were doing your bonus meeting, right? They could have been stellar. Then they make you so mad that day before, and their bonus just tanks because of that one bad experience, right? And so we want to take some of that arbitrary relative nature out of bonus discussion, where you know exactly, you can start setting, okay, if we hit this much, here's your bonus structure. And you can have accelerators, you can have ebbs and flows, and 100% if we hit our goal, 80% if we hit 80% of our goal, right? But you can make 110% if we exceed our goal, right? So kind of breaking down what that bonus structure looks like to help keep happy employees and help them know exactly what they can expect, year over year.
And that's really helpful too. Breaking that down, I've seen it a few different times in the instance of employees inside of a company are asking about bonuses, and like the numbers aren't there. There's no clarification. It's a maybe. It's kind of like a feeling might be answered back to them, and then but they're banking on that, and then at the end it's like, oh well, like when we really get down to actually paying attention to things, because we have to do it because it's tax time and our paperwork and things have to get together, and it's like, no, we can't do this. But if you have the useful information and you're tracking goals accordingly, you should be able to know that way beforehand.
Yeah. At the end of the day, this isn't a hobby for your employees, like it sometimes feel like as business owners, right? They expect and need a paycheck, one, and two, stability in what they can expect so they can plan out their year for their family and so forth. And so kind of just breaking that down and giving them something to look forward to while also setting expectations, right, is a big deal when it comes to goal setting and revenue tracking and such for your business.
Mm-hmm. And I like, the revenue tracking part, but before you get to the actual revenue that is acquired inside of your company, it's what is your close rate? A lot of times you have that information, or that information could be being tracked where it's like, oh, well, what is my close rate? But do you know that? Or you may not even have that information together. So you may want to be able to implement that and have that to be able to see, well, what is this information telling me? Can it help me improve? Do I need to readjust certain things inside of the process altogether?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's huge. And you said something earlier, David, that I just want to make sure, like, what we're talking about today, it doesn't matter if you're using pencil and paper or Excel or stone tablet and chisel. Like, you can track how many proposals you're sending out the door, even if you print them off and stick them in like a closed pile, and then stick your one in a one pile, and then just count those sheets of paper at the end of the year, at the end of the month. Like, you can do this no matter what system you're using. Now, you mentioned having a software to help do this for you. Obviously, that's going to make it easier, something that tracks every send and one proposal. But it doesn't really matter what your current process is or what you're using. Everybody could do this to help them understand what their close rate is, which is really just how many proposals did I send and how many did I win, right? How many did I win divided by the number of proposals I sent. And then that helps you project out a whole bunch of other things like the number of proposals I need to send. Your average contract value becomes helpful here, right? So how many proposals did I win and the total amount of revenue. So you divide your total amount of revenue by the number of proposals that you won, and that's your average contract value. And now with those two numbers, you can figure out if I want to hit $10 million next year in yearly sales, right? I know that I need to win X amount of proposals. If my average contract value, average estimate value is $10,000, I know that I need to win, I don't know what that number, 100 proposals to hit 10 million. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Maybe 1,000 proposals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that.
I gotta do the math. Great. Yeah. I don't have that in my head.
It's been a long one. It's been a long one, but the math will equal itself out. But like you said, you have to whatever system you're using, you want to be able to make sure you have that information because that's going to be able to help you with the projection in your forecast and just having useful information so that you could just better plan things inside of the business.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. So, David, if you don't mind, I've got. I shared the spreadsheet with you beforehand. Maybe we pull that up and we kind of walk through it. We can share this out with anybody that wants it, anybody that requests it, or you might have a more sophisticated one. But maybe we pull this up and we start walking through a couple of these numbers, and then we can kind of show how we got to these numbers and how we use this to kind of project out what, next year. Coming into Q4 should be goal setting quarter for the following year, depending on when your fiscal year ends. But maybe we can start setting the stage of how you can use a simple spreadsheet like we have here to project out where you want to be at the end of 2025.
We definitely can do that. So we have our spreadsheet pulled up, and I'm in the goal setting tab right now currently.
Yeah, so the goal of this, the goal should be, use the word goal twice in the same sentence, but the purpose of this spreadsheet, let's say, is take what you want your revenue goal to be for a given year and back into what that looks like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis from a revenue and a number of estimate goal. But then you can talk about, okay, now that I know what I have to achieve every month or week or day, what am I going to do to achieve that, right? And that's where this middle section is going to be. What do I have to do to achieve that? And we'll definitely touch on that. The next podcast in this series, David's the mastermind behind all of this. His team is phenomenal. And so we're going to go into a lot more detail if you want to get into the digital marketing side with paid ads, email, SEO, social, all of those types of things. Like now you can start to back in both your digital side of marketing to achieve those daily, weekly, monthly attainable goals with, whatever you do on the physical side. I have something in here like drop business cards off or send flyers out or send mailers or something like that, right? You can combine those two. Once you know what you're striving for, you can start to combine those two worlds, the marketing world and the sales world, to really dial in where you're trying to go and what goals you need to set. Cool. So I'm going to start in this goal calculator. So this is where blue your inputs and gray are the calculated fields, are the formulas that are going to help tell you what to do. So let's just start kind of in the top. Let's take small to medium asphalt maintenance construction company, right? And let's say that they did $2.5 million last year. Got my numbers all mixed up.
All right.
And let's say to achieve that 2.5 million, they sent 250 proposals, and they won 190 of those. So again, this is the process of, here's my stack of proposals that I sent, here's my stack of proposals that I won, right? Your stack of proposals won will always be lower than the ones that you sent, because the ones are also included in the sent. So that's just level set there. And then let's say that they won $1.8 million. So now we've got a proposal win rate of 76%, meaning that I won 190 proposals of the 250 I sent, and that gives me 76% of the proposals I sent, I ended up winning. That's a really high win rate. Depending on the specialty of your audience, it may not be that high, but we're just kind of plugging in numbers here. And then you've got a revenue win rate of the 0.5 that I sent out, I won 1.8 million. And so 72% of the revenue I estimated, I won. And my average proposal value is this 1.8 divided by the 190 gives you $9,400, $9,500 is what your average one proposal value is. So David, tell me your thoughts on this initially, or what's your plug-in here?
Yeah, I think having this kind of laid out and really just mapped out into that calculator form where you could see, you could put in your numbers that apply for you, but you're actually able to kind of take away really good information and actually knowing, what is my average value, what is my win rate, what is the revenue percentage rate, and that's so helpful because planning out accordingly trends and more importantly, I think as we're coming to an end in 2024, what does 2025 look like based off of the information that I'm currently seeing?
Yep, 100%. And so when we say data, like coming back to that, this is all the data you need to collect from 2024, right? And from here, we're going to project out, just like you said, David, into 2025. So we're not going crazy. Hopefully we haven't scared you off or put you to sleep yet or anything like that. But this is all we need to help you back into this. Now, as you get more sophisticated, absolutely, you can go into, what are my customer types? Is it residential or commercial? Where did the proposals come from? Did it come from David's social posts or paid ads or my door flyers or expos, right? You can always take this and break down these numbers as deep as you want to make this as broad or as specific as you need it to be. Because then, and this is what David and his team is so good at, hey, you had 30% of your revenue from our social posts, requests from our social posts this year. You should double down your spend on social posts, and maybe we pull some spend away from door hangers, right? Those aren't really the clients that are converting as much. Your social is bringing in better clients for less money. Let's put more money here versus there. So you can really break this down more granular. But for right now, we just want to back into, this is your revenue goal, right? This is what you need to get there from a daily, monthly, weekly standpoint.
Just keeping it so simple as that.
Yeah. Start simple and then go deeper, right? I think a lot of people try to go deep and get overwhelmed or find out that it's really hard to just manage and track and keep up on it, right? Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of falling back into how they were doing it before. So with the last number that we need to punch in here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, David.
No. Just in lieu of what you just said, a lot of people try to go deep and just starting with the baseline and the foundations. And this is what we would consider that foundation, is just take that one step at a time.
Yeah, 100%, man. So the last number that we're going to plug in here is, what is our goal? What revenue goal do we want to hit for 2025? So if this company wants to increase, to $4 million next year, based on these numbers of 2023, now we can start to back into what that looks like. So if I want to hit 4 million, I need to send out 5.5, roughly $5.6 million in estimates based on my 72% win rate, revenue win rate. That means I need to send out 423 estimates next year, which I sent out 250 this year. I'm going up to 423 next year. If I want to maintain this 76% close rate, that means I'm going to win 320 proposals if I can maintain that same win rate. So that sounds like a lot, but now that's kind of what that mean in terms of like granular. If I'm just looking at this, that I sent out 190 last year and now you expect me to send out 430, like that's pretty overwhelming, right? But if we back into this, that's 36 estimates a month, 7 estimates a week, and 2 per day. So now if you're looking at like your lead ratio, however many leads David's sending you in your pipeline, you know how many leads you need, you know how much information you need to get out there to get 2 per day, send out 7 per week, 36 per month, and you're going to be able to hit this goal, right? And if you hit that goal based on your current numbers, your current win rates and such, that's how we're going to get to that $4 million in revenue. So that's the goal of this, is how do we take kind of a big overarching goal and how do we break this down into what looks like bite-sized chunks so that it becomes more manageable. It becomes easier to attain.
Mm-hmm. And those bite-sized chunks, those mini goals where you laid them out so perfectly where if I'm looking at them, I'm like, those aren't overwhelming. Like those are very doable.
Yeah. And this, I mean, it doesn't matter if you send seven proposals on a Sunday evening because you're out on a paver or you're out on a roof or you're installing water heaters, right? The same thing works across any industry, right? I'm more familiar with asphalt, concrete, that side of the house, because that's what our background is. That's what we tailor to. But, this could work for roofers, plumbers, HVAC, electricians. It doesn't matter, right? Ultimately, you have a goal, and how am I going to back into that so that it's a bite-sized chunk, whether you're doing it a full-time estimating or you lump all your estimates together, all 7 of them on a Sunday evening because you're out Monday through Saturday throwing water heaters in. It really doesn't matter. These are just the goals that you need to hit consistently, which is the key, consistently, to hit that, in this case, $4 million goal that you have. Then the key comes by just tracking this, knowing where you are through the year. So that's where we get to this bottom chart down here, where how many proposals have I sent this month? How many do I need to be sent? This is what I have to remaining to be sent, right? I've won 8 of the 12 for $64,000. This is my actual average proposal value or average contract value. I'm a little bit lower than what I want to be, but that's okay because I can make that up later, hopefully. Don't necessarily get stuck on the today. I was actually going through this with a customer earlier today. Yesterday, we were looking at some revenue numbers, and they had a horrendous March. Like, they have a goal to grow by 30% this year, and their March was even with last year. And if you're looking at that, like going from $1 million to 1.3, like that's a pretty big difference in what their goal was for March. And so if they were to hit the panic button in March, that would have been kind of a knee-jerk reaction, because now through April, May, June, July, August, like they've had extremely good months, right? Where they're right on, if they hit their what they sold last year in September, right? Not accounting for any growth, which they're growing steadily right now. They're right on track for the rest of the year, right? If they hit their current growth through the rest of the year, they're going to be about 35% up this year over last year. So yes, focusing on the small mini wins, but also keeping in mind that just because I sent out maybe 30 estimates this month instead of 36, like not all is lost. Keep the big picture in this as well, knowing that you still have other time, right, to fill those in. Now, if you get into November and you've only sent out 300 out of your 423, in the paving world, you've probably lost a lot of time because it's the end of the year, right? It's slow season, not many bids going out. So that's where you have to juggle. Don't sweat the small stuff today, knowing that you can continue to hustle and get more out there. But keep in mind your overall goal that little misses today are going to add up to big misses towards the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely don't want to have those misses at the end of the year where things are starting to slow down a little bit more and shifting and changing. And yeah, you definitely want to be able to try to avoid that if you possibly can.
Yeah, 100%. So like I said, these next things, we're going to talk a little bit more about this with David's expertise in the next episode. But essentially, proposals per week. What do I have to do to get 7 proposals sent every week? Maybe this is, I have send an email to previous clients once a month, right, to conjure up new business. In the spring for us, it's ramp up for the season, fill your driveways, get a new driveway, get a new parking lot, right, for development. And at the end of the year, it's fix those potholes and crack seal and whatnot going into the off season. And so what do I have to do for this week in order to get those 7 revenues? And that plays nicely into your marketing efforts with David. How am I going to dial up and down my marketing spend? And we'll talk about in that next one, like, what's your cost per acquisition, right? You should know, and David does this for you. My cost for acquisition is $100. If I spend an extra $100 in my social media, right, I can expect one more lead, right? And that's kind of how you balance that out, is once you dial in what your marketing efforts look like, whether it be physically, if I send out 100 newsletters, snail mail wise, how many responses do I get? You can determine how many more of those snail mail letters you have to send out in order to get the responses, in order to get the jobs that you need. So that's how you set these goals. What do I need to do to hit 7 proposals a week? And so David, tell us a little bit, like, how do you market and how do you kind of dial those numbers in to recommend to your clients where they should be spending their money on, whether it be paid search, social, email, all of those different channels that are at their disposal?
Yeah, we look at it and we recommend it based off of goals. We always say, you have to buy your market share. So, what are your goals, your annual revenue goals for the year? Where do you want to be? And you need to take, at least, not half, but you want to, turn a fair amount of percentage back into marketing channels and try to diversify where it makes sense. So, we may look and recommend, okay, here, paid advertising would be really beneficial for you. Investing in SEO is always a great, starter and then long-term solution too as well. Hey, can we reactivate some of these old contacts into the pipeline? And just really trying to spread the initiatives out to facilitate that growth and then to have that predictable growth too as well. So we want to be able to say, okay, here's what the information is telling us about how many people are searching, will be searching for your service. These are the keywords that are being bidded on. This is the cost per keyword that is being bid on. These are the companies that are currently advertising in your area. This is what they're spending. And we could take a look at the information on similar companies in the area and seeing what they're doing. And a lot of times what we see in the conversations that we try to have is it is a, a understanding in the business owner's mind sometimes that just because you may be the best at doing what you do, that doesn't make you the best marketing wise or the best or have the best website or you're best at closing
Yeah.
sales. A lot of times we'll see people get worked up of, Joe down the street is doing XYZ better than me. I've been in business longer than him, or, we take care of our customers better, or, whatever the case may be. But that doesn't mean that just because you're better qualified, or you have maybe more affordable services that you could just say, let's just throw out a number, $50 a month in marketing should do me fine, right? Uh, and we have data and information, and we may not have that exact, at 0.99, percent to the dollar, but we do have a range of, what somebody is doing or has done prior in marketing budget. And that needs to be looked at is what we recommend as far as the data is. Hey, if you want to get here, this is where you need to be investing so we could get you to that point based off of the competitive analysis that we have done. Or maybe it's not so much based off of the competitive analysis. It was a conversation I was just having the other day with a business, and I was giving my recommendations, based off of their goals too. And I was saying, it depends on where you want to be. This is going to be a process. We can get you there, slow, medium, or we could put the pedal to the metal. It's just all dependent. And, their response back was, we want to get there, but there's no rush. So that's perfect because now we have the data, we have the information to match up, and it just depends on how soon or how further out you want to actually accomplish your goals. So that's how we use the data.
100%. There's one word you used in there that really hits on everything that we're talking about here, and it's predictable, right? If you can dial in what your goals are on a number of proposals needed, revenue needed basis, right? It becomes predictable what you can attain and achieve, right? Mm-hmm. If you work with David, right? If you have your marketing dialed in to where it's predictable that where you spend money will attribute to additional business, right? It becomes predictable. And if I put more money in X bucket, I can expect more leads. And based on my sales numbers, I can expect X dollars from those leads, my close rate, right? So predictability is the key to what David, you're doing, what I'm doing on the software side, and what my customers are doing on, our asphalt and concrete businesses. So that's what we want to do. We don't want to live in this world of, I want to grow, but I don't know how to, or I want to buy a new house next year, but I don't know if I'll be able to afford it based on where I want to be next year, right? Or buy a new boat or buy a new RV, whatever the case is, right? We all have goals and aspirations, and it really comes down to the predictability of how we're going to get there.
Yeah, having that information available, like you said, predictability will be so helpful. In lieu of that predictability comment, I was having a conversation just the other week, and somebody was referencing somebody that they had trained, and they went out and wound up starting their own business. But the difference was, they started in a busy season. They had this money. They went out and brought some toys and some things, and then they're looking back at their bank account now that it's getting slower and it's, whoa, like predictability wasn't there or accounted for. So you definitely need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I want to, one other comment on what you were saying about, I've been in business longer and I do better work, but Joe Schmo down the road is beating me on marketing or sales, right? I've always said that worse product with better sales and marketing is going to win every time over a better product with bad or poor or no sales and marketing, right? And as unfortunate as that is, and yes, there's word of mouth, but at the end of the day, sales and marketing and really dialing that in is going to be key to all of your growth. Now, that's not a 100% true in all cases, and I get that. More of a umbrella statement, right? That sales and marketing have a huge role, a huge impact on what you're trying to do, and that's what we're trying to talk about: is the predictability, getting that dialed in, getting your sales and marketing tasks dialed in.
Yeah.
So the last thing
No, you go into the segment.
So the last thing, I know we're getting a little bit long-winded here. I want to come back to expectations, goals, bonuses, right? All of that stuff for your team. And so I've got a couple made-up estimators here, and I want to say that estimator one is responsible for 60% of the revenue. He's been here longer. He's seasoned. He's a veteran. He's been with the company, right? And estimator two is responsible for 40% of that revenue. So this is 2.4 is 60% of 4 million, and 40% is, 1.6 is 40% of 4 million, right? So now you can back down to individual estimators as well and start to set goals with them, right? And make sure that they agree. Okay, I only did 500,000 in sales last year. Now you're expecting me to hit 2.4 million. Like, this is where you and the estimators, you and your team come together to make sure that you're setting realistic goals for them. If that's going to impact their salary, their bonuses, their commission, whatever the case is. But let's say that realistically, I've got two estimators that are responsible for the majority or all of my sales. This is how you can back into, estimator one needs to close 2.4. He needs to send 250 proposals and win 192 of those proposals. And now he can start to back into, for me, what does that mean on a monthly, weekly, daily basis as well, right? It's going to be 60% of these numbers. So he'll need to send 3 proposals a week, right? And however many, I don't know what that is, 20 proposals a month, roughly. So now you can back into even smaller bite-sized chunks for all of your estimators to really achieve that. And here's a kind of an inside look. This is how I've done bonuses in the past. I threw this together as we were jumping on the phone, so it's not pretty. But let's say that your estimator can get up to a 10% bonus for the year based on their sales. And your estimator is, maybe they're on salary, maybe they're commissioned. Last year they made $80,000 on their salary / commission. So this is how I broke down my salespeople's bonuses: is if they hit their 2.4 million goal in sales, they get 100% of their bonus. They get 100% of that 10%, right? But now let's incentivize them to go above and beyond. Let's incentivize them. If they go above, then they can earn an additional 10% of their bonus, or 20% of their bonus, or 30% of their bonus, right? And these numbers are pretty low in my opinion. But if you sell 10% higher than what your goal is, then you're going to get 11% rather than 10%, or you could get up to 13% rather than 10%. So now not only is it very clear, if I hit this number, I'm going to get this percentage of my earnings, right? This bonus. But if I hit this number, right, now I'm on an accelerated path. I have an incentive. I'm encouraged to go sell more, right? Because now I'm going to get a larger bonus or commission or chunk of the pie because I sold more. Mm-hmm. We've even done things that if you start to miss your goals, right, you get You still get a bonus. We don't want to take that away from them, but it may just be a less of a bonus because we didn't hit those goals. So this is where it's really important, like I said, to sit down with your team, make sure you're on the same page, make sure those goals are attainable and fair, right? I don't really like the word fair, but they're attainable. You're all on the same page, and then you can set these expectations with your team going forward.
I love the bonus information, just being able to have that laid out like that. So, and like you said, you can incentivize, right? That could motivate them to do better. And then you have the numbers and the actual information at hand that would be helpful to them and something to strive to achieve.
Yeah, 100%. And then it keeps everybody on the same page. It helps with disgruntled. At the end of the year, I was expecting X bonus and I only got Y bonus. Why did I get the same bonus that I got last year? Like, it just helps keep everybody on the same page, keeps expectations in check, and know where everybody's heading.
The clearer,
so David,
the clearer the information, the better.
Absolutely. So give us your key takeaways from this.
So the key takeaways that I'm thinking about for our listeners is really being able to, number one, you want to break down your goals. Then number two, you want to make sure that you're tracking your revenue, your estimated revenue, making sure that you have all that information laid out somewhere, whether it's physical, whether it's digital, and start mapping out, how you're going to achieve your goal. What do you need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to be able to make sure that you get to your end result? And then, importantly, being able to understand what your closing rate is, how many proposals that need to get sent out, putting yourself on a schedule of this, keeping track of things, or whether that's, setting out time to do it all one day or spreading it across the week. Those things will be really helpful for you moving forward. And then really having that information also to share with your team. So, incentivizing them and knowing what those numbers look like so that you don't have those disgruntled employees are really like some key highlights for me to be able to help establish this ground foundation to be able to help you make better decisions inside of the business.
Couldn't have said it better myself, my man. Perfect wrap up. I think there's one in a future podcast, and we were talking about this earlier, David, is with this information, you can start to weed out the types of work that you want to do, right? If you're hitting your goals and there's jobs that you're now thinking, I really don't want to do that. It's not as much money. That's not as profitable of a line of work as these other ones that we have over here, because David's sending me so many new customers and leads and all of that, right? Then it becomes a little bit, you can start to pick and choose. But then you can start to dial in your estimates, and this is what we're going to talk about in the future, is making sure all of your estimates are profitable, right? Mm-hmm. Making sure that you are covering all of your costs every single time so that anything that you send out, you're not doing as a hobby. And with that, we can make sure we're not counting our chickens before they hatch, if you will. We know where we're projecting out. We're not going to go buy a bunch of equipment or buy something that we don't need until we're stable. We're in a place that we know that revenue is coming in based on the goals and the projections and the predictability that we have set up within our process.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to expounding on that on the next part of our series.
Absolutely. Me too.
Well, excellent. I think we've wrapped on our key takeaways and insights for this first part of the series. So definitely appreciate the nuggets that Jared has provided for us and that we've been able to talk about and collaborate on. And just look for these things that you can implement inside of the business to make sure that you have that. You're painting a picture, right? And you want to make sure that you have all the tools available for you when you're at your canvas to be able to make sure that you actually get to the end result.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun. I appreciate the conversation, bringing me back on. I hope it was of help, and I appreciate, as always, it's a pleasure, David.
Yes, it's a pleasure too as well, Jared. Thanks so much. We're looking forward to the next episode in the segment in the series. And audience, please make sure you tune in to the next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Blueprint Boost for Contractors. We hope you found today's insights and strategies valuable for your contracting business. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and please leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring content that truly matters.